Chapter 21 Chapter Summary in which Aaliyah takes her duty as the #Hofriend quite seriously. Chapter notes. I know this update was long in coming, and I just want to thank you all for being so patient with my busy schedule. That being said, this chapter grew to be crazy long, so you guessed it, I'm double updating. The next part should be up by tomorrow, but I hope this tides you over until then. Enjoy, sinners. See the end of the chapter for more notes. It was when Aaliyah asked that she meet her in the library that Marinette knew she fucked up. You see, she'd just barely been able to beg off the conversation the night before, promising Aaliyah that she would be the perfect pupil when it wasn't so late on a school night. But her unwillingness to hear the nude gospel over the phone had only given her friend more time to scheme, as evidenced by the fact a serenely grinning Aaliyah greeted her the next day in homeroom. I've booked us a study room over the lunch hour, that way I can use the projector. What exactly are you going to be projecting? Marinette asked fearfully, dozens of progressively worse possibilities flashing through her mind as her friend just laughed. I spent all night working on a PowerPoint. Aaliyah informed her, swiping at a spot on her glasses. And honestly, I feel like this is going to be my best lesson to date. Marinette groaned. And groaned. And didn't stop groaning throughout the entire morning block of classes. In fact, she didn't stop groaning until she dragged herself towards study room 4, tucked into the back corner of the library. Because when she walked in, only to find a maliciously grinning Aaliyah seated across from a politely confused Adrian, Marinette began to scream. The raven-haired teen immediately wheeled around, only to be greeted by the sight of Nino slamming the door in her face. She watched in horror through the glass inlays as the boy jammed a chair under the knob, his shit-eating grin only stretching wider at each curse Marinette flung his way. Nino peeked around her, giving his undoubtable accomplice Aaliyah a thumbs up before causally walking away. Marinette, Nino, get your scheming, pansy ass back over here and let me out before I throttle your fucking if you're done swearing like a sailor. I know. You. Hear. Me. She punctuated each word with a swift and desperate kick. We would like to get the lesson started, Aaliyah went on, speaking gently, coaxing her friend to sit down even as Marinette continued to rain fury down upon the tightly shut door. Will not, cannot. Not now. Or here. Or with Adrian. Oh God, please not with Adrian. Wait, lesson. The blonde boy questioned. Marinette wanted to cry. Yes, Adrian, let's just call this round 3 of your sex ed curriculum, Aaliyah said, curiously chipper despite the metaphorical daggers being thrown from the blue eyes just feet away from her. And this time Marinette will be joining us, seeing as though she was the one who asked about sexting in the first place. Disappear. 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 Oh, Adrian responded, flicking his eyes towards her before returning them to his hands. She didn't disappear. Aaliyah, Marinette squeaked. A quirked eyebrow. Aaliyah, Marinette begged. A friendly shake of the head. Aaliyah, Marinette threatened. The redhead gestured to the unoccupied seat across from her, turning to pull down the projector screen as she puttered around the other side of the table. I've instructed Nino not to open the door until the end of lunch break, so you can either sit down and earn your education or pout like a child. Marinette weighed her options, but a sharp look from Aaliyah indicated there wasn't much of a choice to be made. Face on fire as she gave Adrian a pained smile, Marinette took her seat beside him with a wince. He returned her greeting with an equally uncomfortable wave before turning to Aaliyah. Wait, so why doesn't Nino have to be here? He prodded. Nino has opted for a more private lesson, their teacher responded cryptically, hooking her computer into the monitor. Then why can't I get a private lesson as well? Marinette broke in, Adrian echoing her with a mumbled me too. Well, Mari, I tried to call you last night, but you were busy doing God knows what Chad Noir, and as for you, Adrian, Aaliyah went on, typing furiously before looking up at him. You're cute, but not really my type. Too handsome. Too twinky. Oh, Adrian said, accepting her answer with a shrug. Marinette, for her part, was doing a great job of holding herself together, especially considering the bold-faced title screen that popped up the projector before her. Aaliyah's patented nude gospel, aka the Sin Commandments. Yeah, nope. Can't do this. You know what? I think I'm actually just going to pout under the table now, okay? No you don't, Aaliyah lectured, pushing Marinette back down into her seat with a tut. You will sit and listen quietly until such a time as you have a question. And that goes for both of you, am I clear? Yes, Mom, both teens mumbled out, slumping in their seats as their surrogate nodded approvingly. She scoped the clicker up from the table, switching to a slide titled Mission Statement before swinging into her lecture. The aim of today's lesson is to help Marinette take some steamy pics for her mysterious new beau. Marinette choked as she watched those exact words slide onto the screen with a cheesy transition animation, desperately avoiding the searching glance of the boy beside her as she focused on not screaming again. And also to give Adrian the advice he'll need in case he ever decides to sex the girl he's been popping boners for. That sentence showed up on the screen as well, accompanied by a thunk as Adrian's head slumped to the desk. At this point, it was very difficult for her not to shriek. He's been doing what for who now? Aaliyah soldiered on. Our first 5 commandments focus solely on the art of nude photography, with the second half centered around erotic messaging in general. The girl gave a pause, snapping her fingers until her 2 pupils returned their attention back from their personal, internal crises. And as always, just raise your hand if you have any questions. Marinette briefly considered if transforming into Ladybug and breaking down the door was an option at this point. All right, Aaliyah began, rubbing her hands together in glee. Prepare to hear the gospel. 45 minutes after he left, Nino rounded the corner into the library, whistling as he leaned down to clutch the seat wedged under the doorknob. Not 3 seconds after he cleared the exit came a mass of red and blue, stumbling from the study room to give him a downright poisonous glare. Making his way out behind Marinette was a wide-eyed Adrian, the boy burying his hands in his pockets as Nino just grinned at the pair. So how was we are never to speak of this, Marinette cut in, voice hoarse as she regarded both teens before her. Agreed, Adrian croaked. The 2 made faltering eye contact once more before splitting off into opposite directions, leaving a now cackling Nino to stand bracing himself in the doorway. What in the world did you tell them? The boy questioned, wiping tears of hilarity out from under his glasses. Everything they needed to know, Aaliyah answered with a smirk, gathering her materials up before exiting the study room with a flick of the light switch. They looked like you just spent 45 minutes smacking them around. Not everyone is ready to hear the gospel. Really? See now personally, I enjoyed your teaching immensely. Well that's good, seeing as though I'm planning on springing a pop quiz on you tonight. Nino gulped, swinging the door closed as he rushed to catch up with her retreating form. I just had the weirdest conversation, bet I can one-up you. Adrian plugged his phone in with a click, flopping down onto the bed with a drawn-out groan. Today's photo shoot had been brutally long, and if he had to keep his spine straight for another minute, he might have just snapped in half. The teen stretched himself out, shoulders digging into the mattress as his joints popped pleasantly under the strain. Pale light flooded the large room, casting a dim, evening glow on his prone form. The atmosphere was quiet, creating the perfect backdrop for getting some light reading done, or perhaps just lulling right off to sleep. Well, Adrian thought, unbuckling his jeans in a practiced fashion, time to masturbate. Nowadays he couldn't muster up the energy to be ashamed at how often he yanked himself further down to hell, yet honestly Adrian could care less about his supposed innocence as long as things kept going in the direction they were with his and Ladybug's relationship. And while it had never taken him long to get it up, things had been going especially quick as of late, not surprising considering all the fun, new discoveries he'd made during last Monday's tryst. He listed each one off with a shiver. Ladybug was capable of getting wet enough to soak through her costume. Ladybug sleeps naked so she can feel the sheets against her bare skin. Ladybug more or less admitted to being a screamer, for God's sakes that last tidbit alone was enough to supercharge his every twisted scenario into some B-rated porno that'd undoubtedly be banned in certain countries. But suffice it to say Adrian had plenty of new fodder for his fantasies. A quick scan confirmed his room was mercifully Kwame-free, and the teen wasted no time in taking advantage of his privacy to help ease some of the tensions of the day. Beneath the covers his hand went straight for its target, foregoing any sort of foreplay in favor of gripping his newly formed arousal with a series of practiced strokes. The first image that popped out of his spank bank was a new favorite of his, the memory of her crawling forward to straddle him with a wicked smile. The fact he no longer had to imagine the scene, just recall it, was a blessing in and of itself, and Adrian gave a delirious grin as he added to the fantasy. Now Ladybug was grinding into him with a vengeance, ass moving in tantalizing circles beneath his hands as he gripped her tighter. Not enough. With a shake of his head and another jerk of his wrist, both his hand and her backside were rendered bare as the imagined sensation of their skin-to-skin contact coaxed a sharp inhale from the panting boy. More. I need more, his mental Ladybug whined, pulling back to display her need as her breasts heaved with little pleas for him to touch her. Oh God, please touch her. Adrian imagined himself slipping his fingers down the smooth expanse of her stomach, teasing the hot flesh that resided between her thighs as his girlfriend cried out her pleasure. In the here and now, his cock twitched in his grasp, and Adrian screwed his eyes shut with a huff. His unoccupied hand scratched at the sheets beside his shuddering hips, prompting him to shift the scene in his mind so that it was Ladybug's fingers balled up in his linens as her back arched off the bed. Fuck, he wanted to take her right here. Looks like you have other business to take care of, better to feel the sheets that way, her lilting teases echoed through his mind, and Adrian stifled a groan at the memory of them. She knew. She knew what she did to him, knew what he must think about as he ground himself out every night. Ladybug knew it and she accepted it, perhaps even encouraged it. The thought drove him wild. She wants me to fantasize about her, he realized. She likes leaving me all hot and bothered because she knows I'll just go home and think about her. Adrian sped his hand up, the visions of a keening ladybug bucking on, under, and around him never ceasing as his stomach coiled tighter in anticipation. God, it's almost like she gets off on. The blonde's eyes snapped open at the revelation, hips wrenching forward desperately against his palm as a new flood of heat spurred on his actions. What if she does get off on the thought of me? Suddenly Adrian found himself subtracted from his own fantasy, watching raptly as a flushed and fully nude ladybug buried one hand between her thighs, the other toying with a pert breast as her unmasked if a bit fuzzy face contorted in pleasure. The lingering looks, her body's physical reactions to him, those double-edged flirts that slid so easily between Ladybug's lips as she made her departures. It wasn't a stretch to believe she, just like millions of other young women, made a regular habit of pleasuring herself. And honestly, Adrian shouldn't have been as shocked as he was at the revelation. But the intoxicating thought that perhaps somewhere out there, maybe in the dead of night or in the twilight of morning, there was pretty, little dark-haired Vixen, laying back on her bed, pinching and teasing herself as she imagined what he'd be doing to her, doing for her. Adrian growled, actually growled. As he picked up the pace, desperately seeking his release as the mental image of a shuddering ladybug going to town on herself drove him to near depravity. Did she moan his name? Did she imagine his fingers in place of hers as she pushed them inside of herself? Did she seriously, again? Oh, get out, plagg. Adrian yanked his hand out from beneath the comforter, grabbing at a throw pillow before chucking it towards the tiny black mass floating around his loft. The Kwame dodged it easily, rolling his eyes as the teen shifted himself around with a few mumbled curses. In case you forgot, I live here as well. We're a package deal, you and me, and unfortunately that means sharing a room, Plag said, flying down lazily. So I'd appreciate it if you could go just one day without doing your disgusting little human ritual. It's bad enough you only seem to transform when you want to try lighting a fire via friction between yours and Ladybug's hips. Honestly, I don't know how Tiki stands it, he trailed off, giving his chosen a withering stare. Adrian sighed, zipping his pants with ease thanks to the magical softening powers of his own built-in boner killer. Yeah, well, it was my room first, so I'll do all the disgusting human rituals in it that I want. Besides, you are more than capable of flying off elsewhere, so I don't want to hear another word. By my silence. Permanently, Plag countered, stretching his paws out imploringly. For 8,000 wheels of cheese a month, I will stop. How about this? I get you a shiny new tablet, a nice pair of earbuds and all the streaming subscriptions you could ever want if you just give me my alone time, Adrian offered him, heart rate coming back down as he tried to ward off his irritation at the Kwame's interruption. Plag did have a point, they had no choice but to share a room, and perhaps he was being a bit selfish by doing his business right in the middle of their space. We got a deal. Plag's eyes narrowed, tossing the idea around his head before giving a curt nod. That sounds acceptable, but I also want an expanded camembert budget. Deal. Adrian conceded, now transform me. Oh, you're kidding me. The Kwame moaned, watching as his chosen scrolled quickly through his phone's inbox before sticking out his ring finger expectantly. Please, Plag. Ladybug hasn't texted me back in a while and she sounded like she was in a weird mood earlier. It wasn't like her to go this long without responding, and Adrian was starting to get a bit worried at her silence. Just let me be Chad Noir long enough to see if she shows up on the tracker and I swear I'll rush order your gifts. Fine, Plag grumbled, putting up a lecturing finger. But this better not be an excuse to jump her in some alley or I will not hesitate to break your transformation. Adrian just gave a silent nod, grinning as he felt a wave of primal power bind him up into his suit. Well, I won't be doing any jumping, but if she was the one to leap first, chapter end notes. I had a number of people message me wanting to know if I would write out the whole gospel, but just know the scene began to stretch on forever so I had to cut a majority of it. I am, however, considering publishing it as a separate ficlet, so who knows. Keep an eye out. Disclaimer, next chapter is nothing but fluff and sin also, hella cool fanart http://bullysquadess.tumblr.com/post/13879798707/miraculousbird tbh my fav scene in the ladybugs http://bullysquadess.tumblr.com/post/1387723807977/Mitsukai a scene from Bullysquadess.